Stoicism, a school of thought that teaches the importance of calm, resilience and emotional stability in the face of a random, unfair and evil world. Stoicism was originally taught by Zeno of Citium, who previously had a great disaster, namely losing all his wealth because his ship sank on his journey. He lost everything he had purely because of the unexpected actions of nature. Continued by Epictetus, a slave who spent almost his entire life in prison. Then continued by Seneca, a Roman politician who had survived bankruptcy and exile. Continued by Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who in 19 years led him to lead major wars and at the same time had to face the death of his children. Stoicism originally began in ancient Greece, and later dominated ancient Rome. The followers of this philosophy are very numerous and widespread, ranging from a slave to an emperor. And it is still very popular today. Because this philosophy is not the same as other philosophies, this one helps us deal with negative feelings that arise due to unpleasant events that happen to us. People who understand or study this philosophy are commonly known as Stoics. Stoics are now better known as people who are calm in the face of the hustle and bustle of the world, who can calmly endure injustice and continue to try to live their lives. This Stoicism has also become a common practice by great leaders in history, like Marcus Aurelius, Frederick the Great, Montaigne, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Adam Smith, John Stuart Mill, Theodore Roosevelt, General James Mattis, and many more. All of them are influenced by this Stoic philosophy. A Stoic person is someone who can stay calm even when under pressure. A Stoic is someone who can avoid excessive emotions. People who know when to be angry and when to be sad, and most importantly, Stoics know that anger is sometimes a rational thing to do. But in most situations, being angry for no reason is just a source of stupid decisions that lead to regret. Likewise with sadness, they know when to be sad and when to stop being sad and move on. Because they know, being too sad will not take someone anywhere in life. To be able to become a Stoic person, there are several exercises or training that we can do to later improve our ability to stay calm in facing this harsh world. Knowing that there are things we can control and there are things we can't control. Sometimes, we worry too much about things that are beyond our control, which can cause stress and eventually lead to depression. Almost everything in this world is actually beyond our control. We can't control what other people think of us. We can't control the weather, traffic jams, natural disasters, or even death. But, even so, we can still control how we react to the situations given to us. Whether an event is sad or not, fair or not, we ourselves determine it. As Marcus Aurelius said, "It doesn't hurt me unless I consider the event painful for me. I can choose not to." Why should we be sad about things that are beyond our control? We should focus on things that are within our control. This is important because it not only improves our focus, increases our ability to turn expectations into reality, but also helps us accept reality and not end up blaming the world. We can't go back in time to change things we may have done wrong, but we can change how we perceive the past that happened to us. No matter how loud you shout and honk, traffic jams will not suddenly become smooth. You can't make yourself taller or shorter by 5 centimeters just by wishing. No matter how hard you try, you can't suddenly be born in a different country. You can't wish to have different parents, with different economy and status. The time we spend worrying and hoping for empty things that are beyond our control should be used for things that we can control. If someone says you are such and such a person and you don't like it, you can't change their mind and hope they never said that. It's not in your control, but what you can control is how you react to what that person says. You yourself determine whether you should be sad, angry or not care about it. It all depends on yourself. So, try to ask yourself every day, in every situation you are facing, if possible make a journal and reflect every day, which is in your control and which is not, and determine how you act on those events. The premeditation of evils is a Stoic exercise about imagining things that could go wrong or fail. Imagining it in our minds, as if it has already happened, that the bad thing that could happen, will happen. This will help us prepare for the trials of life that we cannot avoid. We don't always get what we deserve. Sometimes unfair things can happen to us. Psychologically, we should prepare ourselves and our minds in case something bad happens to us, for our own mental and spiritual health. When we imagine something bad will happen to us, when it does happen we will feel okay, at least not as sad as when we never expected the worst to happen. But, when the bad thing doesn't happen, we will feel happy, because the thing that was beyond our expectations and what we wanted, happened. For example, Seneca, He always reviewed his plans. For example, when he was going to travel, he would imagine or write in a journal what could go wrong or make his plan fail. Maybe a storm came, the captain was sick, or the ship could be hijacked. Nothing happens to a wise man that is contrary to his expectations, Seneca wrote to his friend. Also, not everything turns out as he wants but as he thinks, and above all he considers that something could hinder his plans. Imagine clearly how the worst case scenario will happen, and also imagine that it is still survivable. You will not die because of the bad thing that happened to you. So that if something bad happens, we are prepared and do not express excessive emotions such as panic, anger and excessive sadness, which will actually make things worse. The great German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche explained what is called a great human being as an amor fati, love of destiny. That person does not want anything to be different, not in the future, not in the past, not forever. Not only to endure what is necessary, let alone hide it, but to love it. Stoics are very thick with this attitude. Epictetus, who lived as a slave faced with difficulties after difficulties, once said, "Look for things to happen as you wish. Instead, hope that what happens as it happens, then you will be happy." Loving a dream too much to the point of attaching to it will be dangerous if the dream does not come true later. Having dreams is a good thing because it gives us a sense of purpose, but let go of those dreams. Don't be too obsessed with dreams and goals. Practice premeditatio malorum once in a while. Imagine if you fail to achieve that dream. Amor fati is very good to be used as an exercise and mindset to face what happens. Face each moment as something to be faced, not to be avoided, no matter how challenging it is. And also, face it as not just something to be faced as something okay, but to be loved. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You could die right now. Let that determine what you will do, say and think." Memento mori is a personal reminder to keep living in the virtue of now waiting again. The wise man lives as long as he can, not as long as he wants. Quality of life is better than quantity. Memento mori. Let us prepare our minds as if we were coming to the end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance the books of life every day. People who put the finishing touches on their lives every day are never short of time. Seneca often said to keep reminding ourselves that, "You may not wake up tomorrow," or, "You may not go to sleep again," is a reminder of death. Steve Jobs would sit down several times a week in the morning and think, if today were his last day, would he be happy doing what he was going to do that day? If he got no for 3 days in a row, he would spend his time sitting and thinking, what went wrong? If we feel that our death is near, the things we have always wanted to do will definitely be done. The life we want to live will definitely be lived. How we should think and how we should act, without having to delay it anymore. Because sometimes we know something is important to us, but because we feel that we still have a lot of time, we arrogantly postpone it. Using these reminders every day will help us build a more fulfilling life and not waste a single second of our time. In Stoicism, the art of journaling is not just a diary, this practice is a philosophy itself. Preparing for tomorrow, reflecting on the day that has passed. Remind yourself of the wisdom learned from others, readings, or experiences today. Stoicism is a philosophy of practice and routine, not a text that needs to be read once to be understood, but a lifelong journey that requires persistence, repetition and concentration. Seneca once explained to a friend, "I examine my whole day and recall what I have done and said, hiding nothing from myself, leaving nothing out." By writing down and reflecting on the ups and downs, the good things to be grateful for, the bad things to learn, in our days and preparing for tomorrow, it will create a sense of order in our minds. As Marcus Aurelius did in his book, Meditations, Seneca, who was very wealthy because he was an advisor to Nero, the Roman emperor at that time, suggested that we use a few days a month to practice misery. Eat little food, wear your worst clothes, don't sleep in your bed. And ask yourself, are these the things I fear? Comfort is the worst kind of slavery, because you will always be afraid that something or someone will take that comfort away from you. But if you practice misfortune, if that happens in your life later, your mentality will not be as damaged as before. Emotions like fear and anxiety come from uncertainty, not from experience. And these emotions can damage our mentality, decisions and even our days. The solution is to do something. Familiarize yourself with the worst case scenario that you fear. And feel what it's like to live with the thing you fear the most. Stoicism has a practice called reversing obstacles, which means every bad situation or thing can be turned into a source of something good. If for example you try to help someone and their reaction is not gratitude but wants to punch them, instead of making your life worse, maybe it's a lesson for you to be more patient. Or when someone close to you dies, it might be a lesson for you to be more steadfast. There is no good or bad in Stoicism, there is only perception. You are the one who controls your own perception. You can choose how you perceive something. If X happens then my life is ruined, or if X happens then I am okay. You choose whether something that happens is bad or good for you. Take a step back, zoom out and look at life from a bigger point. This exercise imagine billions of people, all the armies, farms, marriages, divorces, births and deaths, encourages us to take perspective and reminds us how small we really are. Looking from above can change our value judgments on things. Luxury, power, wars and the worries of everyday life will seem ridiculous. If we look from a third-person perspective, we will realize that our problems are actually not that big. We realize that the problems we face are not comparable to what everyone else is facing. And if we zoom out even more we can see that this small planet is no bigger than a speck of dust compared to this universe. Those are 8 practices that you can do to become more stoic and live a calmer life with stable emotions.